Just 3 weeks out from the 2024 general election, 41 million Christians say they aren't voting. They say they don't like their options, which, as I think about it, might be the most intellectually lazy thing someone can assert in our self-governing republic. I'm Michael Quinn Sullivan with a reflection on life and liberty. As I read this study by the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University, I was reminded of the parable of the talents found in Matthew's Gospel. Jesus told his disciples the story of a wealthy man who entrusted his servants with large sums of money to oversee during his absence. One servant received the equivalent of 80 years' worth of earnings to oversee, while another 32 years' worth. A third received 16 years' worth of earnings. The first two essentially doubled what they'd been given. The third didn't like his choices, so he buried the money in the ground, not even bothering to put it with a banker. He later said he did so because he was scared of his master. But his excuses were a cop-out. He thought that by doing nothing, he would avoid responsibility. For his cowardice, the servant was called, quote, wicked and slothful. As I read that ACU study, that's how millions of Christians appear to be treating this election. They mumble self-righteous pieties about the choices, implying themselves to be the standard-bearers of civic and personal morality. They seem to think that they'll be able to stand before God and smugly say, I know you put me in this self-governing republic, but I couldn't lower myself to do my duty, so you can't be angry with me because none of the candidates on the ballot met my standards. Is that the standard these Americans want to have applied to them? Is that the standard they hope God employs as He elects us for eternal life? I know how poorly I compare to God's standards. I'm personally counting on His mercy through Christ. I often hear people say they hate choosing between the lesser of two evils in elections. It's like they've just emerged on planet Earth from some state of bliss. We live in a fallen world. All of us fall short of the glory of God, some more spectacularly than others perhaps, but that's a bit like comparing the stench in various sections of the city's sewer. In the real world, God calls us to be shrewd. We must make choices between what's actually in front of us. Look, I'd like to have filet mignon for lunch every day, but the budget says my choices range from chicken salad to PBJ. I mean, I guess I could go hungry, but I choose sustenance over starvation. The great irony is that by choosing not to vote in the election for whatever their righteous reasons, the 41 million Christians are in fact casting a vote. They're choosing to let other, less biblically shrewd individuals make the governing decisions for them. By refusing to consider the nuanced positions of the candidates and the relative real-world good or harm each would bring, these Christians are letting those guided by destructive ideologies and worse theologies to pick a dangerous path for our republic. Wicked and slothful indeed. We were blessed to be given a self-governing republic. By hiding from the responsibilities of citizenship, these Christians are preparing to embrace an unbiblical foolishness. Rather than hide from the hard choices, we have a responsibility to faithfully engage the world as it is. And yes, that means, as Christian citizens in this republic, participating in the elections. If you liked today's message, I hope you'll pass it on to your friends and encourage them to subscribe. The Reflections podcast is presented by Texas Scorecard and produced by Nick Shepard. I'm Michael Quinn Sullivan. Thanks for listening.